Right, so I'm back with another video, and of course, it's that time of year again. I mean, most of them are already out. This one might not even come out for a few days until I finish editing it, so just before the Premier League actually starts. But anyways, my Premier League predictions, hence why I have the Spurs kit right over here, an old Arsenal kit, and a retro Chelsea kit right here as well. I honestly wanted to wear the Liverpool one, but I just wore for the last video that was posted, so anyways, we're here now doing our Premier League predictions. And yeah, we're just going to go through the positions. We're going to start at 20th all the way up to 1st. Although I will say this is looking to be one of the most interesting Premier Leagues in recent history, at least in my personal opinion. I think the top 4, top 5 race is going to be insane. The title race itself is going to be absolutely nuts. And I think even the relegation battle is going to be interesting, in my personal opinion. These are just my predictions, which means I'm going to be absolutely correct. I'm going to hit every single team on the spot. But anyways, so at 20th, unfortunately, bottom of the league and just getting relegated almost absolutely definitely, it is one of the newly promoted sides. It is Burnley. I think they did pretty well in the championship last season, but overall they lost their starting goalkeeper, James Trafford, to a title contender in Man City. So yeah, not the greatest of transfer windows for them. Not to mention they haven't really, replaced them, at least with solid quality. And even with James Trafford, I still feel like it'd be difficult for them. But either way, we know that the Premier League and the Championship, the gap between the two is going to be way too hard for most Championship teams coming into the Premier League, including Burnley. So yeah, 20th position for them. Moving swiftly on to number 19, I think, honestly, it might be a controversial take, but I'm going to say Brentford. I mean, this is just based off the transfer window that they've had. They lost their manager, they lost their captain, and then they are also losing out quite a few players in the likes of Brian Mbeumo, possibly Yohan Wissa, and even if they don't see much solid players there that can, help boost them up. And honestly, Brentford have been fighting for, they've been struggling to maintain that, place in the Premier League, at least in my personal opinion. They've done well the past few seasons. I mean, ever since they came up, they've been doing really well, staying mid-table. But now, without the likes of Thomas Frank, the leader of this ship, and also their captain, Christian Norgard, who has gone to yet another title contender, Arsenal, right over here, I think Brentford are going to struggle, and struggle so much that they will be fighting in this relegation battle. I think it won't be easy. I mean, I think it'll be hard for them. And I think, they'll be within those spots of 17th to 19th. But ultimately, I think they're going to get relegated and they'll fall down all the way into 19th place. The last relegation spot is a little bit of a sour note for me because I really do love this team and respect them. It's going to be Wolves or Wolverhampton Wanderers. Yes, I really love this team. They had the likes of Raul Jimenez and so many other players like Pedro Neto, but now they have the likes of Andre. I don't even know some other players at this moment. But overall, Wolves are a decent side, but they also have struggled in the past. Even last season, they struggled barely, were able to make it out of the relegation zone thanks to their manager. But I mean, now with the full Premier League season, and with everybody getting stronger and Wolves seemingly not getting too strong, although I think they did bring in Big John from Botafogo, which is good. That's their goalkeeper, their new goalkeeper, but I don't think that's enough reinforcements. But, the transfer window isn't over. Still, Wolves, I do see them getting relegated just barely. I think it'll be a scrap, but they'll finish in 18th. Joining that scrap will be yet another one of the newly promoted sides. I think it's pretty interesting that I have two of them staying in the Premier League. That's just, I'm a little bit biased, I'm not going to lie, and also I really want them to stay up. But Sunderland, I am keeping Sunderland in the Premier League, at least that's my prediction. Keeping them in 17th, I think it'll be a huge fight. I think it'll be very difficult for them. Wolves and Brentford will be fighting with them alongside the next two teams that I'm going to talk about to maintain in the Premier League. And they will. I think Sunderland will do it. I mean, they made some great signings like Granit Xhaka, very surprising to me, but also very interesting. Obviously, you guys know I'm a Barca fan. Of course, I'm keeping up with players who have left Barcelona, even come out of the academy. Marc Guiu, who actually joined Chelsea last season, didn't get much playing time, but now has been loaned out to Sunderland. I think he'll get a lot more playing time. Keep an eye on him. I think he'll score at least 10 Premier League goals. I'm just saying that for a side fighting relegation, I think that's really good. So keep an eye on Marc Guiu. Just saying. Sunderland in 17th, surviving the drop. You know who else is surviving the drop despite losing a lot of players? I think just barely, landing in 16th place. No, it is not the last newly promoted side. It is actually Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth have lost. They've lost half of their defense. Could possibly lose a third of their 4-man defense, and still lost so many other players. I think they also lost Kepa Arrizabalaga to, again, Arsenal. So I think losing that many players, especially in such a crucial part of their side. I mean, massive respect to Iraola, their manager, who's a really good manager. I still think they're going to struggle a lot. They lost Milos Kerkez, they lost Dean Huijsen, and they will most likely lose Zabarnyi to PSG. I think those are huge losses, which will land Bournemouth in a relegation fight. They will win it and stay in 16th, thankfully for them. But watch out, I could definitely see them getting relegated as well alongside Brentford. Another team that I can also see relegated is, of course, the final newly promoted side in Leeds. Call it bias, call it just delusion, but I think Leeds have a very solid squad, a solid enough squad to maintain or stay in the Premier League, and honestly, I just really want to see them succeed. They were a fantastic side who fought alongside the likes of Manchester United. They are a huge rival of Man United. Nowadays, not so much, but I would love to see that rivalry begin anew and, fight up against Manchester United by being a strong powerhouse or just a mainstay in the Premier League. So I think if they're able to survive this season, which I kind of do predict them to do, I think they can do a pretty good job and, climb up the table through the years and maybe challenge for the top 7 or top 8. But anyways, Leeds in the 15th place. Not as confident in that pick, but I'm going for it because I want to be bold in these predictions. Speaking of bold, I'm going with a huge drop-off for a team that finished as high, I believe it's 7th last season, and they were in the top 3 for a majority of it. They were even contenders for the top 2, but it's Nottingham Forest. Yes, I'm dropping them low as 14th. Some people have actually dropped them lower, some people have kept them higher. I think 14th, almost mid-table. I can definitely see them getting around 10th or 11th, but I generally do think European football will not destroy them, but just, make them struggle. I mean, they won't have as strong a season as they did last season, especially with so many games coming up for them. If they crash out early in the other cups, I could see them push up a little bit more and focus on the Premier League, but the European football could distract them a little bit and take away playing time from some of their best players, or could lead to injuries, which could be a struggle for them. So 14th place for Nottingham Forest. Not in a relegation fight, I think they'll be perfectly safe, but just that mid-table. Going one more up, another struggle for a team that actually, I'm recording this literally the day of that they just won another trophy over the likes of Liverpool. Yes, the Premier League winners. They won the FA Cup, so they were obviously playing the FA Community Shield against the Premier League winners, which was Liverpool. Yes, I'm talking about Crystal Palace. I'm keeping them in 13th. I believe they were around that same position last season. I completely forgot the positions of last season. Don't worry about it. But anyways, Crystal Palace, keeping them in 13th, or putting them in 13th despite them winning 2 trophies. I mean, they could lose out on another player. I mean, Eberici Eze could be a player that could be leaving. Mateta could be leaving. Obviously, they lost Michael Olise last season, and yet they still did pretty decently, including the FA Cup win over Man City, and they've just won a Community Shield. But despite this, I'm still going to say Crystal Palace will be around that mid-table, quote-unquote, fight, because I don't think they'll be struggling with relegation. They might start off a little slow, but I think they'll pick up. Oli Glasner is an amazing coach, at least in my personal opinion, and he could definitely push up higher, but just don't see it. I think they'll have a little bit of a fall-off, and especially if they lose one of their players like Mateta or Eze. In 12th, I have Fulham. Fulham are a respectable team and a respectable team with the likes of a Mexican that I really like, Raul Jimenez. He's amazing. Even though he's on the older side, I do respect him a lot, and I do expect him to do good things in this season. Despite that, I think he could still struggle alongside this Fulham side. As good as they are, as good as they were last season, I don't think Anthony Robinson, their left back, will put up another 10 assists season. With that being said, a few other players may not perform to their highest of abilities, which is unfortunate for this Fulham side, but also not too unpredictable. But that's why I'm going to just keep them in 12th. I think that's a solid number. They could easily go a little bit higher and a little bit lower, but I think 12th sounds reasonable for me. Finishing up this bottom half of the Premier League predictions, I'm going to go with West Ham. I'm a pretty Big fan of West Ham. Yes, bias. These are my predictions, okay? No one else's predictions. These are my predictions, so you gotta deal with it. I'm just sorry. Yeah. Anyways, West Ham is who I'm putting in the best of the rest from the bottom half of the teams. I can easily see them fighting for relegation, but I can also see them even fighting for European football because that's just the team that West Ham are. They can be really good, really bad, but most of the time they're just right there in the middle, which is exactly where I'm putting them. 11th place for West Ham. They have Edson Alvarez. Huge fan of them. I might even buy a jersey of them this season. Who knows? But West Ham, please prove me right that you guys can do pretty decently. Maybe not push for a European spot quite yet. I mean, they did do it a few seasons ago, but yeah, 11th place, whatever. It's fine. Bursting through in the top 10, I think it's Everton. Yes, the other side of the Merseyside derby. Or the blue side of Merseyside derby. I haven't even talked about Liverpool yet. Anyways, Everton, I do have them finishing in the top 10. I think they will have an underrated season. I mean, David Moyes is cooking a little bit. Let him cook a little bit. I think David Moyes has proven to be a pretty decent manager, Man United aside. But Everton, he could do a pretty decent job and push them up the table, even higher than 10th. But I think 10th is around the level that they could be at, they should be at. They signed Tierno Berry, I believe from Villarreal. I could be wrong about that. But I think that's a great signing. And Alcaraz, I think that's a pretty good signing. I even have him in my FPL. I think he's a player to watch. I think Alcaraz is definitely a player to watch. He could come in, chip in with about, I think, like almost 20 goal involvements, if I'm being fully honest. So keep an eye on him. Maybe 10 and 10. Keep an eye on this youngster. Speaking of keeping an eye on this 9th place team, Hipster FC. A lot of hipsters love this team. It is Brighton. It just has to be Brighton. They're a solid side who have proven yet, time and time again, that they are really good at signing and selling players. And this time, I mean, they sold Adingra, they sold a few other players, and yet they brought in even better players, arguably. They brought in a really good player, in my personal opinion. I really am excited to see what he can do. Maxime de Kuiper. I think that's a very good signing, very smart signing, and I feel like it's an underrated signing that not many people are talking about, which I would love to see him just prove everybody wrong, that he can do really well in the Premier League. For Brighton, hopefully, we'll see. And maybe not just him, but I think the rest of the team will propel Brighton up into, a top 10 fight. Maybe even fighting for European football. But overall, just finishing up in 9th. I think it'll be tough for them. I think towards the end, they'll kind of slip off a little bit. I think they'll be pushing hard really well, pushing for that European spot, and then ultimately fall off towards the end, and unfortunately drop down as low as 9th. But that's as low as they go, in my personal opinion. A little bit of a fall off here, but I think an 8th place is respectable, but also kind of disappointing for a Champions League quarterfinalist who were the closest to knocking out PSG. That's right, I'm talking about Aston Villa finishing in 8th place. Yes, out of European football. I just think it's going to be tough for them. I think they had a very, very good season last season. But I think the other teams are just a little bit better, and they've just reinforced better. I know I'm talking about the top 6 teams plus another one. And yeah, we will talk about them just as we get to it. But I think 8th place, I can definitely see them a little bit higher. But 8th is just, I don't know. I just feel like based off of the transfers that are happening, the things that are going on, including some rumors like Ollie Watkins possibly still leaving, I think it's very difficult for Aston Villa to, just push for anything higher than 7th, 6th, maybe even a 5th, but I think 8th is solid for them, and I'm going to keep them in 8th. I'm sorry, Aston Villa. I love Aston Villa, but yeah, we're going to have to keep them there. And if I'm not mistaken, 7th place, the first European spot. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the first European spot, which gets them into Conference League. No, it is not one of the big 6. It is Newcastle United. Yes, I have Newcastle United falling as low as 7th. I know. They finished 5th last season. They made it to Champions League, which means they have Champions League this season, which means they're going to get distracted again. You know what happened last time? They did not perform as well. They did pretty decently, underratedly so, in my personal opinion, but they kind of did slip in the league. So I think that could definitely happen again, especially with 8 games that they have to play mandatory up against in the Champions League. That'll be very tough for them. They're one of 6 teams participating in the Champions League, which is insane to me. But Newcastle, as much as I love them, as much as I respect them, including myself, I do want to get a Newcastle jersey. Anyways, do think they might struggle, especially if they lose Alexander Isak. If they keep Isak, I can definitely see them as high as 5th. pushing for top 4, if not even top 3. But if they lose Isak to Liverpool, this could all change, and I think 7th is a respectable and very smart decision on my part. I don't think Isak will actually leave, but still 7th is respectable, and I think that's a solid enough pick for my opinion, or like prediction for me. But sorry, Newcastle, that's where I have you. Moving on to the top 6, and obviously I have not talked about any of the big 6, i.e. these 3 and 3 more, the other 3 that you saw in the last video. But yeah, pretty obvious. It's mostly between 2 teams. 2 teams that were in the Europa League final last season. One won, the other one lost. But in 6th place, I am going to go with Spurs, if you can. Spurs, right here, Spurs. Yes, they lost Heung-min Son just recently to LAFC. Son, I love you, but man, I'm a Galaxy fan, man. Come on, why are you joining LAFC? Anyways, still respect Son, and I will root for him despite him going to the opposite LA. Anyways, Tottenham Hotspurs, I think they will finish in 6th, Europa League place. They do have Champions League this season. I think they will struggle just a little bit, not as much as they did last season. I think injuries were a major problem, plus they got in a new manager in Thomas Frank, and they got Mohamed Kudus. Yes, James Maddison did get injured, and they might need a little bit more depth, but I don't think they're done in the transfer window, at least in my personal opinion. Plus, I think their defense is really solid. I think Dom Solanke had a down year, but I think he'll have an up year this season, especially under the leadership of Thomas Frank. Still, I think Champions League will let them down a little bit. I think they'll get knocked out rather early in that competition, but push kind of hard in the Carabao or FA Cup, which kind of will have them dip in form in the Premier League for a little bit, but overall do decently enough to finish in the top 6 fight. And I think they'll make it top 6. Moving on to number 5, or in the 5th place position, I am going to go with Manchester United. Pretty obvious, they finished in 15th last season. Yes, I did not misspeak, 15th. They won no silverware, they won the Europa League final and lost to this team right here. Yes, I do think Man United will finish over Spurs. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, they brought in Benjamin Šeško, they brought in Brandon Buemo, and they brought in Matheus Cunha. They got rid, or sold/loaned out Marcus Rashford, and they're still thinking about loaning out/selling a few other players like Alejandro Garnacho to this team right here. But also, Man United just overall, they still are linked to players like Donnarumma, and there's one more, but I completely forgot his name at this current moment. But I think overall they've had a pretty decent transfer window. Ruben Amorim is finally getting a little bit more accustomed to his players, showing them what they can do, and of course that crucial injury to Amad Diallo last season was detrimental to their season. And I think they know that pain of finishing in 15th, and they will not take that pain for granted. They will push it and use it as motivation to get them up the table and finish in a Champions League spot. As low as 5th, they could go a little bit higher, but I think 5th is probably their ceiling, at least for this season. Massive faith in Man United. I have a lot of Man United friends as well, and I mean, I'm kind of buying into the hype. Maybe I shouldn't, but let me be a little bit of bias. Man United. Yeah. So top 4, I think this was going to be the most interesting fight because I honestly and truly believe that all 4 of these teams I can definitely see all 4 of these teams winning the Premier League. I was going to say easily, but not easily, because these 4 teams all fighting for this Premier League. I think all of them will finish in the top 4. Obviously, I'm talking about Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Manchester City. They are really good teams. They've had pretty decent transfer windows at the very least. I think Chelsea has arguably had the worst. Although, I think Man City and Chelsea arguably have had the 3rd best. And then you have Arsenal, who have had the 2nd best, and the Liverpool have arguably had the very best of any European team. They brought in Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, Jeremy Frimpong, and Milos Kerkez. They did lose out on Trent Alexander-Arnold, and of course their best players are, i.e. Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, are getting a little bit older, but still. A drop-off, even if they do have a drop-off, it won't be that big. Arsenal did brought in a striker, and arguably one of my favorite strikers of all time, Viktor Gyökeres. I will definitely be getting an Arsenal jersey with Gyökeres on the back. I'm just saying. He's got my favorite number. How could I not? And then Chelsea, they've sold a few players, but also brought in the likes of Liam Delap and Joao Pedro. I think I'm a pretty huge fan of both of those strikers. Unfortunately, it means that they might not play together. They could, but I think Joao Pedro might be starter, Liam Delap a little bit of a backup, but either way, I think they'll still, combine and get enough goal involvements for one another. And Cole Palmer is still on the side. He's the new number 10 of Chelsea, and I think he's going to step up big time in this season. Not to mention Man City, who did lose Kevin De Bruyne to Napoli, but they still have Erling Haaland, the machine. I think Phil Foden will have another fantastic season. Maybe not player of the season, but will be up there. Will be a nominee. Plus, I think they got in another player. May not be a new signing, but it's basically a new signing because returning from injury, it's Rodri, the Ballon d'Or winner, 2024 Ballon d'Or winner, Rodri. I think that is a huge boost to Man City's side. With that being said, in fourth place, very sad to say, we're gonna go with Chelsea. I really am very sad to say it. I just think it's too young. The players are a little too young. And I don't have full faith in Robert Sanchez. If they bring in another goalkeeper, if they would have brought in Mike Maignan, they could easily be third, if not winning the Premier League. I can see them winning the Premier League. Do not get this twisted. I'm not saying they are the worst of the top four. No. I just think that they're a little bit inexperienced in this type of thing. I can see them going far in the Champions League or in the FA Cup or Carabao Cup run because they are more of a cup side. That's just my personal opinion. And they're rather young. They did just win the Club World Cup over the likes of PSG, which are arguably the best team in the world right now. But Chelsea overall, just a little bit young. If they had a little bit more experience like a Thiago Silva, which they had a few seasons prior, Koulibaly, again, had them prior, then I would have said that they have a much stronger chance of winning it. And I can definitely see them winning it. But I just don't see it as likely as the team that I do have winning it. But Chelsea, fourth place. Cole Palmer will arguably be player of the season, if not at least one of the top assisters, top 3 assisters, and top 5 goal scorers in my personal opinion. Keep an eye out for Cole Palmer. He is also a very good player that I'm definitely going to be tuning in to watch. Moving on to third place, the Bronze. And yeah, I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid. I say Liverpool. Yes, Liverpool. Very surprising. Most people, and many people, if not, I would say all, but obviously I'm not all because I'm not picking them to win the Premier League. Even if you don't have them winning the Premier League this season, yes, they won it last season. After this amazing transfer window, I have to say it. Just, I don't know, something about this screams they're not going to win the Premier League. They're just, to me, there's too much hype. There's too much, oh, but they won the Premier League. Oh, but look at this transfer window. Seen that before, and then you buy into the hype, and then they don't win. I'm just saying this is what it reeks of. They have a gorgeous home kit. They have an amazing player, Florian Wirtz. I love Florian Wirtz so much. I have a jersey of him. I have his Germany jersey. Not only that, they also brought in Ugo Ekitike, and they could bring in Alexander Isak. If they bring in Isak, easily first place. I'm like, with all due respect to Ekitike and all their other forwards, Alexander Isak is a step above, apart from Mo Salah. Don't get that twisted. But yeah, Liverpool, third place. For me, it just reeks of a third place spot because everybody believes that they're going to win the Premier League. And that's why they're going to shock us all. They're going to have a fantastic start to the season. Everybody's going to be saying, yeah. And then they're going to have a slow dip and they're like, no, they'll come back. And when they do come back, it'll be too late because either Arsenal or Man City will have already overtaken them or be that close. And then ultimately win out in the very end. I think it'll be a very, very close title race, maybe a point or two in it between the top 4. We'll say top 3, just Chelsea. I think they'll drop a little bit. I think they'll be like 4 or 5 points off of second or first place. I think it'll still be very close, in my opinion. But yes, Liverpool, this is one of the most shocking things that I'm going to say, will have a huge dip in form and they might have some injury issues. I just kind of see it. I don't hope it, I just kind of see it happen. And I think their squad depth is a little bit left to be desired, mostly their center back position. If they get another center back like a Marguehi, that'd be amazing, but it doesn't seem like it's happening. If they do, pardon me, sorry Liverpool fans. And do not hate me because I really do respect the team, and I can definitely see them winning the Premier League. That's just the obvious answer, and I don't like going with obvious answers. Moving on to number 2, obviously if I say the number 2, you will know who I have winning the Premier League. But number 2, to everybody's dismay, I'm going to go with Arsenal. Actually, no, of course not. I'm going to go with Man City. Yes, I am actually putting Man City in second place. What? You think Arsenal's gonna win the Premier League? Yes, int. I think Man City and Liverpool are most likely to win the Premier League, but I am a little bit biased because of Gyökeres. I'm gonna be fully honest. But also, wouldn't it just be fun? Wouldn't it just be super cool for Arsenal to finally win a Premier League again? I say it cool not because I know a lot of people dislike Arsenal fans and saying like, oh, but we've got second place over there. Yeah. To be fair, they've gotten a lot of consecutive second places. Even last season, that should have been their season. But obviously, Liverpool just stepped up. And speaking of Liverpool, just real quick, I forgot to say this, but Mo Salah, I think, will have a little bit of different form. He will not be the best player in the league. I think it'll be another player. Hence why I think Liverpool will struggle. Not saying Mo Salah's bad or he will just start declining. I just think he'll have a little bit of an off season. Still have a fantastic season, honestly, better than most other players. But he'll have a little bit of a dip, maybe like this is just, right? 20 goals and about 12 assists. Still a fantastic season by all metrics. But yeah, I think Liverpool will dip a little bit because of Mo Salah. But anyways, also I do think Florian Wirtz will take a little bit to accustom himself to the Premier League, and he could get injured. Again, don't hope it. Anyways, moving on. Arsenal. I have Arsenal winning the Premier League, but before that means I do have Man City in second place. Let's talk about Man City for a quick sec. Obviously, they won 4 Premier Leagues in a row, and then they couldn't make the 5th, unfortunately. But I think they will be back to it. They have Rodri back. They have Erling Haaland, obviously a goal-scoring machine. He will just not stop goal scoring. I think he will be the top goal scorer yet again. He will take back that title from Mo Salah. And of course, Phil Foden, like I said, I think he'll have a rejuvenated season. He'll go back to maybe not player of the season, but around that type of level. And overall, just, show the Premier League, show the world what he can do back in the Man City. And again, like I said, just overall the likes of Savinho, Jeremy Doku, Tijani Reinders, and also even the likes of Nico Gonzalez will be very good. But I think their defense will just leak a little bit too many goals, which will lead to them struggling and conceding just a few goals too many, and ultimately lose and get second place in the Premier League. But Guardiola, I love you. I'm sorry, but second place. I'm very sorry. It pains me to say that because I love Pep Guardiola. I like Man City. They are a very good team. Just overall, I don't know. I see Man City finishing second. I don't see them winning the Premier League. They are more likely to win it than Arsenal, and Liverpool are more likely than even them. I think Arsenal are the third most likely to win the Premier League. Even Chelsea's up there and could be fighting for that 3rd place. But just overall, I see Arsenal winning the Premier League. I don't know why. I think it's more of the shock factor, and I think they kind of do deserve it. I mean, Arteta's 7th, 8th season in this project. They have Gyökeres. They finally have a striker, which they've been begging for. A lot of Arsenal fans have been begging for it. Even I've been begging for it, even though I'm not even an Arsenal fan. I'm just rooting for them because, again, I like the likes of Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz, also Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard. Yes, I know he's a former Real Madrid player. But overall, Arsenal are a good side. They have a very solid defense. I think the worst part, quote-unquote worst part, was the fact that they didn't have a striker, their left winger, but I think Martinelli, arguably, even if they bring in Rodrigo, which I think might happen towards the end of the transfer window, if not maybe January, I think Arsenal will sign a world-class left winger, whether that be Rodrigo or someone else. I think that could definitely happen. Boost their title chances even more. And then, Bukayo Saka, with all the creativity that he has, not to mention Nwaneri, and then, of course, Martin Odegaard, servicing the player with the finishing ability of Gyökeres, and I'm not even trying to say that he's the best striker. I think Alexander Isak and Erling Haaland are better than him, but I just think Gyökeres will have a pretty decent season, way better season than most people are thinking. I'm not saying 25 goals, I'm saying 20 goals, quite a few assists, but also, don't forget that Saka can also contribute with a decent amount of goals. Plus, I think Declan Rice will also contribute with a decent amount of goals, and I think even Martinelli will also contribute with a decent amount of goals. I can't say exactly how many. Saka will score at least 12 goals. Mark my words. Gyökeres will score 20. It's 32 goals right there. Plus whatever else everybody contributes. Not to mention their defense. Defense is absolutely amazing. And what's one of the most common sayings in all of sports? Defense wins championships. If they can stay fit, which I do kind of hope that they stay fit for this prediction, they arguably have the best defense in the league. with all due respect to Liverpool, I just think they do. I'm not a huge fan of David Raya, but he has proven to be a world-class shot stopper, or arguably in that echelon of world-class shot stoppers. I have to say it. I have to admit it. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but you gotta respect the game. You gotta respect the players, and I do. But yeah, that's what I think. I think Arsenal will start off slow, and I think no one will think of them as title challengers. But then they'll have a slow rise, and then an upwards hill where they eventually make it to the top of the Premier League at the very end. It might go down to the very last match week. I think Arsenal will clinch it, just barely. But anyways, those were my Premier League predictions. I know they were very out of the blue, very random, and very different to most people. I'm going bold. I'm going very bold as in my return of Premier League predictions. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do like and subscribe. Let me know your Premier League predictions down in the comments below. And sure, go ahead and call me crazy. I don't really care. I'm going bold for these predictions. I could be completely wrong. I don't really... I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I'm right, imagine if things go right. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.